When Lambo, Kage. I sold my car for an NFT, and now I'm riding the blockchain to work.
Yeah, it sounds like a crazy ride, yo. Buying a JPEG for 10 ETH, because who needs a house anyway?
You know, crypto's so cutting edge, it cut my net worth in half.
All the money is gone.
That's brutal, man.
My seed phrase is safer than my dignity after that last trade.
My portfolio's got more ups and downs than a soap opera, yo.
Crypto's so wild, even rug pulls have rug pulls.
Pull that rug back.
Tell me about it, man. Decentralized finance? More like decentralize my rent money to thin air, yo. Poof.
Who?
Kage.
Mr. G.
You know what time it is?
You know for sure, yo.
It's Centbee Show time. Welcome to the Centbee Show. I'm your host, Lorien Gamaroff, and my co-host is Kage, 100% Ntshingila. Kage, welcome to the show.
For sure. So, Miss G.
Yo, so here we are. We're back here. We are talking crypto, we're talking blockchain, and most importantly, we're talking Satoshi Nakamoto's Bitcoin.
Yep.
A long-lost concept.
And that concept, Mr. G, you know, like it's our duty to unfold it because it's the beginning of a future we need, you know? I mean, we're talking Web3 now.
Yeah.
So if we don't actually hook our people up with WhatsApp, that's literally just leaving them in the dark. And we never do that on the Centbee Show, yo.
No ways. This show is all about light. It's all about bringing the truth to light. Something that has been long forgotten, this idea of peer-to-peer electronic cash.
Facts.
You know, we live in a world now where crypto dominates. It's all about HODL. It's all about JPEGs. It's all about apes. It's a big monkey business.
It is. It's a circus, yo.
We want to try and cut through all that, especially that false narrative around what Satoshi intended when he built Bitcoin. You know, a lot of people think that Bitcoin is all about being uncontrollable, unstoppable, uncensorable. These are the words that you're going to hear when you go and sit at any crypto conference. When people talk about Satoshi's vision, Satoshi's vision was all about creating a framework that people could use where we could eliminate fraud and we could make the world a much safer place when it comes to transactions and being able to eliminate money launderers and drug dealers. You know, Satoshi wanted to improve the world. He didn't want to create a system that makes criminals, give them power. Of course not.
You will get caught.
What Satoshi wanted was to bring low-cost digital cash to the world, as well as so many other things. I mean, the blockchain, the BSV blockchain, Satoshi Nakamoto's blockchain is just so capable. There's so many different things that you can do with it. And because it's massively scalable, it means that it's cheap and financially inclusive. You know, that's another thing about BTC and all that. Everybody's talking about it being for everybody. But the whole point of BTC isn't about bringing low-cost cash to the world. It's about creating this HODL mentality, this speculative mania, this hope that one day if you just buy this token, you're going to just make it big.
And that's not freedom. I mean, you spoke about them pushing this freedom narrative, but they are not even free to build on that side, you know?
Oh my God. That's right.
That's right. So one of the things that has become very interesting over the last few years is this concept of Web3. And of course, a lot of people will wonder, well, what the heck was Web1 and Web2?
Yeah, because I'm sure a lot of people just woke up to Web3, you know, but they're not aware that there was Web 2, Web 1.
Yeah.
Let's start from the beginning, Web 1.
Yeah, so no, when we're talking about Web 3, of course, we're in the blockchain world and people are looking at blockchain to solve all sorts of problems and to create all sorts of new business models, ways of interacting with each other, new ways of distributing assets, digital assets and ownership of assets, even consumption of media. That's all wrapped up into the Web 3, which is what we're going to get to. But to understand how we got to Web 3, we need to go and right back to Web version 1. And, you know, when I first started getting into the internet, it was in the 90s, you know, the early 90s. It was this new thing people were talking about, the internet. And of course, the main thing that people understood about the internet was email. And there's a lot of funny clips that you can find of people back in the day saying, you know, what is this email thing? You know, what is that @ sign?
Can you explain what internet is?
That little mark with the A and then the ring around it?
At?
See, that's what I said. Kay said she thought it was about.
Yeah. Oh.
But when the web just started getting going, it was a very bland place.
Yeah.
There wasn't much interactivity when it came to websites. Really, websites in Web 1 were just these static brochures, just content that you could publish onto the internet. Either it was a personal blog or it was a website about your company. When I started developing websites back in those days, we were building essentially online brochures for these companies.
You see, guys, what I mean that Mr. G is an OG. He's been in the game, yo.
That was the whole idea. It was just this place where you could publish content. It was kind of a flat and static.
Yeah.
There was very little interactivity. I guess JavaScript was coming along in those days and making things a little bit more interactive.
Yeah.
You know, you could also get GIFs.
Yeah.
But there wasn't any user-generated content.
Yeah.
And if you think about the world today, largely what people consume on the internet today is user-generated content. And so Web 1 was just the ability to be able to publish content to the internet and somebody could then go and have a look at it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, as I said, it wasn't interactive. People couldn't do anything apart from just view it. Hypertext HTTP was very basic. You know, it was really just click a link, open up another page.
That's it, yeah.
Nothing special. So if you were surfing the web back in the early days, if you were using Yahoo or even Google, all you could do was just really go and view the information, click a button, get more information, but that was basically it.
Yeah.
And then Web 2 kind of began with this advent of, I guess we can call it social media, where users could then log onto a website and then they could go and create content. So if you think about the early days, there was MySpace and there were GeoCities. This is a place where people could go and create their own content. They could put their own information, their own photos. If you were back in those days and you probably used MySpace, it was definitely not the best experience. But what was amazing was that it allowed people to now put their information onto the internet.
I have 212 friends on MySpace.
Without having to have any coding skills or having to host a website on a server, you know, very technical things. These companies that were being created like GeoCities or MySpace allowed you to create an account and then you could upload photos, and also you could go onto other people's pages on MySpace and you could comment, you could like posts, although I think Facebook came up with the whole poke idea. Remember the poke, the Facebook poke?
I remember those very well, man.
Yeah.
Because people, they used to poke, eh?
You Facebookers, I can poke you.
I'd love to be poked.
And so with all this user-generated content, it was then easy for those platforms to be able to target advertising at people, because now they could see what kind of interests you had. I mean, that was the whole point of Facebook. It was to just load your personal profile onto the web, and then Facebook would have that content and they would then be able to tailor advertising to your likes and your dislikes.
Web 1 was more a user not being able to interact with the platform, you know. You just maybe go to the link, you read whatever's published there.
Yes.
So now we get into Web 2. Now this means users can interact with each other.
Yeah.
Which is pretty dope now, because it means users will be spending more time on platforms. So like you were saying, now it's an opportunity for online advertising basically, and targeted.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
This is what everybody uses today. We're still living largely in a Web 2 world. You know, the advent of Web 3, there's a lot of experimentation, a lot of blockchains out there that are trying to enable Web 3 services and apps. But at the moment, the world is very much on a Web 2 system.
Yeah.
You know, if you use Facebook, if you use Twitter, you are now adding your content to that platform, and that platform now owns that data, and they can monetize that data. As we said, they can target advertising, but also they can use that information to sell it to other third parties. If you're going onto another website, sometimes you might find that Google advertising is tailored to your profile, your likes and dislikes, and you can see how information that you put onto these platforms isn't your own. It's now being owned and controlled by these platforms.
Now we own you.
And they can do whatever they want with that data. Yeah. So this is the world we live in right now. This idea of an internet where users can log onto a platform like X, I think I said Twitter earlier, and Facebook, what else is there? I mean,
Instagram.
everything. Instagram.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've used any of these apps, TikTok,
All of them.
what you're doing is you are providing your content to the platform. They are holding that content, and then they can use that content to monetize. So that's the Web 2 we live in today, and this is the world that everybody is used to.
Yeah.
But what Web 3 is supposed to now do is it's supposed to decentralize that information through blockchain.
Giving the power back to the user. But when we're talking about the power back, because we spoke about in Web 2 that all the data belongs to the platform, basically.
Yeah.
You posted everything there, so basically they own you. But with Web 3, talking about giving the power back to the user, what type of power are we talking about? Because we're still talking internet and having to put your stuff, you know, where everyone can access it. But what type of power are we talking about that the user will have now?
Yes. So really, at the end of the day, Web3 is kind of based on this blockchain concept where information is not owned by some central authority. If you are using blockchain, the whole idea is that it's the data on that blockchain is decentralized. There isn't a Facebook or an X that is now holding that information as a custodian. And if you think about blockchain today, one of the first things that you think about are cryptocurrencies. And the whole idea of cryptocurrencies is that you can own the keys to your coins. That means that you are in possession of those coins.
Yeah.
And if you want to be able to transfer those coins or do whatever you want, you have the power, because all you have to do is then just sign a transaction on the blockchain and you can transact. Now, that's very different if you think about the way banks work today, where the bank controls your money.
Yeah.
Yes, you can give an instruction to the bank to move that money, to make a payment or transfer. But at the end of the day, that money is held in custodianship by the bank.
Yeah.
And one of the things that blockchain does for us is it gives the power back to the user, where they have the keys to their coins, and they can then decide to be able to transfer those coins without having to go through a central intermediary.
And also having to transfer it at any given time that you want, you know, versus having to abide by business operating hours.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because it's now a decentralized network, you can access that network just like you can access the internet at any time.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the ways that users are empowered through blockchain. And one of the things that makes Web3 so cool and interesting is that users have the power to make those transactions without having to give instructions to a custodian to be able to move those coins. Now, when it comes to owning your own coins, Centbee is a perfect example because users keep their secret phrase and their PIN, and that forms the seed of your wallet and your private keys. And so Centbee is a great example of users owning their own BSV. Centbee doesn't control it. We have no access to users' BSV, Bitcoin SV. You own and you are in control of your own keys. And if Centbee was to just disappear, we can't take your coins. We don't have access to your private keys. Those are yours. And you can, by using another wallet, you could take those words and you could then go and bring your coins back. And so Centbee is a perfect example of user ownership when it comes to your own currency, your own digital cash, because you are sovereign. You own those keys.
I mean, that's pretty awesome, Mr. G. We can't access people's wallets like via backdoor, or we can't. And if they don't like Centbee, they can move their coins into the next wallet.
Exactly.
So there's no, like, you know, we got you here whether you like it or not type of vibe.
Exactly.
Yo, Miss G, I mean, the whole point was, you know, to talk about the user data. Like giving the power back to the user. And in most cases, we're talking social media. So let's talk about social media in Web3. Like, are there platforms that actually facilitate such?
Crypto is one thing, moving coins is one thing, but you know, we've been saying that if you used X, for example, you are posting content to X and X holds that information. It also holds the connections, all your followers.
If they actually decide to shadow ban you or ban you, literally just like that, you are irrelevant. Like all your 2 million followers, they don't mean nothing.
Yes, exactly. And Centbee's 2 million followers are all gone. But that's right. X has the ability, because they control that information, to restrict access to that information. And if you go against their terms and conditions, then they can lock you out of the system. And that means all your data, all your connections, all the likes and all the follows that you have are all trapped inside that system.
Yeah.
And so the blockchain now, remember the blockchain is supposed to be a decentralized ledger. And a ledger just means it stores information. And so one of the things that we are seeing now with the blockchain and Web3 is that users are able to post information to the blockchain itself.
All right, I'm transferred. Let's go.
And that means it's not owned by the social network platform. Which means that if you wanted to, you would be able to, if we were in a Web3 world and you were using a Web3 platform, but you didn't want to use that platform anymore. What you could do is you could then move away from that platform and take all your data with it, all your posts, all your connections, and go to a different service, a different social media platform. That's impossible today because, of course, your data is locked in to that social network, that platform. But the idea of blockchain now is where we decentralize that data. All your posts, everything that you've created are now stored on the blockchain. And that means you own that data because, of course, you've got the keys to that data. Now, this is really cool because, as you were saying, if X decides they don't like you, or you just don't like X, maybe you think that it doesn't work so nice.
Maybe you just don't like how they do business.
Yes, or you just don't like the way their user interface works or something. But if you are storing your content on the blockchain, it means now you're not tied to that platform and you can go to another platform, hook it up to your blockchain data, and then have all your posts, all your photos, all your content, all your connections, all your communications available on that other platform. So this is a really great thing when it comes to user-owned data. You know, we're so used to our data being owned by a platform.
Free, eh? If it's free, you're the product.
But what Web3 does with blockchain is it means that that data now becomes your property and you can decide what you want to do with it.
That's funny, Mr. G, because I think people are super comfortable with just giving their data to these platforms, you know?
Yes, well, that's just because that's how it works. If you said to people, look, you can use X or you can use another social network and you'll still have all your followers, you'll still have all your data, you know, you're not trapped. You can now decide. And it becomes truly competitive, the whole nature of the system. Because now if X isn't delivering, it's very easy for you to migrate away from X. Because now you're not tied to the platform. So this is a wonderful opportunity for people to not get locked in to a social network. I mean, you can imagine people who've been on Facebook, for example, years and years of posting and building up a reputation, so much content. If Facebook switches off, if that person gets sick of Facebook, what are they going to do? Nothing. But if that data is on the blockchain, it's easy. They can just say, right, we're moving, go to a different network. And if that network is Web3 enabled, you just hook up your data and boom, everything is as it is and you can now use that other platform. So it's a really nice way to be able to have content that you feel is yours. This is the most important thing about Web3 is that your information, your profile, your identity, your data, your content, your photos, everything that you create becomes your own.
I think Web3 is actually, you know, the transition of having to give platform to the creators. To be credited, rightfully so. Because what's happening right now, you know, you're just posting stuff on these platforms. Anyone has access to them and they have the right to use them because technically it doesn't belong to you anymore. You know?
Yes, and very important when it comes to content creators is being able to monetize that information.
Because I wanted you to actually expand more on that.
When it comes to this data that you're putting on these social networks, the social network is monetizing that data. They are the ones making money by selling your data.
You are the product.
You are the product. That's so important to remember, because your data is owned by the platform.
Yeah.
And so you are producing this content for the platform to be able to monetize. But in a Web3 platform, a Web3 environment, you own that data and you can now monetize that data. If you are an artist, if you are selling music, whatever it is, you can directly sell that using Web3, using cryptocurrencies. And so the power is in your hand. Your information is yours to monetize.
Yeah.
And this is another very transformational thing that will happen with Web3, is that people are going to be able to monetize their data directly.
Yeah.
Instead of having platforms farm that information and then sell it. And normally what happens with these networks, like if you look at YouTube, they throw you a bone, they're like, okay, well, thanks for your videos, we're making a ton of money, but we'll give a little bit back.
This is what you deserve.
Yeah. Or if you're a musician, you're sort of tied to the streaming platform Spotify, and they're going to pay you what they think you're worth.
So here at Spotify, we like to make sure that our wonderful artists are well cared for financially. So we start off with a base rate of 5 cents per play.
5 cents per play? That actually sounds pretty good.
Whoa, let me finish. That's just our base rate. We then have a 10% service fee, a 5% tip, a 20% delivery fee.
Delivering what?
Then there's the 7% ugly tax for some of our less attractive artists. There's also the small order fee for albums with less than 10 songs. And finally, we have the 14% attitude tax for artists who seem to be giving me a bit of attitude right now. I would literally be losing money. I'd be paying you. Hey, where else are we gonna get that money from, The customer.
You can't sell your music directly to your listeners. You're forced to go through these platforms. But wouldn't it be wonderful if artists were able to find their fans and directly sell their content to their fan base?
Oh, man. I mean, I see it as, the greatest sort of like thing to come for us, because in this day and age, Mr. G, information is quite important, especially the source, so it's important at least to have content creators to have at least a direct link of having to push their content and also getting credit for that.
Twitch was a famous example in BSV, which no longer exists, but it was the same as X. Users could post their content to the blockchain and then they could like the posts and earn BSV for doing that, or BSV for posting content. So Twitch was a great example, although Twitch doesn't exist anymore. Another non-BSV example would be Steemit. Steemit was a blogging platform where you could post your content there and earn Steam coins or whatever coins, whatever they had. And there's also the Lens protocol as well, which also allows users to post content and earn their profile data. So there are a few examples out there of Web3 social networks. And of course, we're very much looking forward to seeing more BSV related social networks.
Mr. G. I think that's where it should be all leading, because that's where it will all sort of like be accommodated and work seamlessly.
Well, that's right. I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to need a scalable blockchain for that, right? And right now in the world, the only scalable blockchain, especially with the advent of Terranode, is the Bitcoin Satoshi Vision version of Bitcoin. When we look at how are these Web3 platforms going to evolve, there's only really one game in town. If you just look at the number of transactions that are getting processed now through Terranode.
That's a no-brainer, yo. Ms. G, earlier on you spoke about owning your own identity. I mean, that should be a given. You need your identity. We should be owning you. But what is it about? Because we're talking decentralized identity.
A very important thing, obviously, you can have data, you can have content, you can have photos, you can put them onto a blockchain and you can own that data, you have the keys and you can control it.
Where's my data?
But a very cool aspect of blockchain as well is the ability to be able to verify information, verify especially personal information. Now, if you think about the way identity works, when you go somewhere, if you go to a club, let's say, and you've got to be over 18, you've got to verify that you are over 18.
Let me see it. You pussy out or what?
No, man, I got it. It's flawless. Check it.
Hawaii. All right, that's good. It's hard to trace, I guess. Wait, you changed your name to McLovin? McLovin? What kind of a stupid name is that, Fogel? What are you trying to be, an Irish R&B singer?
And so typically what you will do is you'll hand your ID over to the bouncer and he'll check it, check your photos, see your date of birth. But there's a lot of information on there that isn't relevant. And so when it comes to blockchain, what blockchain gives you is the ability to verify that information without having to provide a whole lot of extra information that's not relevant. And sometimes there's information that you don't want to expose, stuff that they don't need.
You don't need my ID number. You know what I'm saying? All you need is how old I am. Am I eligible to enter this place? And that's that.
Yes. And so what the blockchain also allows you to do is to be able to have a way of verifying certain parts of your information. So if you need to verify your birth date, for example, or you need to verify your name, you have the ability now to own that information on the blockchain, and you can control it, and then you can share that with anybody that needs that information. But also what's cool about it is that you don't necessarily have to hand that information over. Remember, the blockchain is a great way to be able to just verify information. So if you want to verify your age, for example, you can prove that you're over 18 without having to actually hand over your birth date, for example. Also, if you think about platforms like Facebook, you've got an identity on Facebook. You've got your profile photo, you've got your name, you've got all sorts of personal information about where you live, who you're married to. There's a whole lot of information that gets captured by these platforms, and then they own that information. And then if you want to go and use that information elsewhere, you have to go through the platform. But what blockchain allows you to do is take that information, keep it yourself, and then you can share that information with the platform. So if you're using a Web3 platform, you can then give access to that Web3 platform the data that you own. You've stored it in the blockchain. So the platform doesn't own it. Identity is a very important thing if you are using a financial service. Financial services platforms also need to know their customers, and they need to know who you are. And so here is a way that you can now have a portable identity, and if you need to verify on a financial services platform, you can do basic KYC by just verifying your personal identity without handing that over to the platform. So a great thing about Web3 is going to be to own your content, but also own your identity, and only share information and verify information with platforms as they need it.
Mr. G, you said something very important there, and we always overlook it, especially at this day and age. We easily give our information to these platforms. We sign up without reading the terms and all of that. Like, that's the norm. But we don't realize that we are literally selling our identity to these platforms at no cost.
Yes, and it's locked in there.
It's locked in.
And then they can use that information again to monetize that data.
You guys having to be active and posting and all of that, that alone is their business model. Let's talk about the crazy side of this. NFTs.
Now to the latest trend that's sweeping the internet.
Called NFT.
They're now selling for huge bucks.
$69 million.
Oh my gosh. So what's behind this latest craze?
That is the question to ask.
Apes,
kitties.
There's just so much happening that side, NFTs. Can you actually get into what really are NFTs?
NFTs. This is really where all the craze is happening right now. When we look at Web3, really it's focused around these trading collectibles, these bored apes, these crypto kitties, people selling artworks for millions of dollars. It's definitely a crazy space we're in right now. People have been collecting things forever. When you look at something, you might not see any value in it, but it'll have sentimental value to somebody. And so NFTs today are definitely where Web3 is hot at the moment. And if you've ever seen these images that people sell of apes or anything like that, that's what we call these NFTs. And what is an NFT? What does it stand for? Well, it means non-fungible token. Now, what the heck does that mean? Well, let's talk about the token idea. A token really just represents something. If you have a house, you've got a deed, and that deed represents ownership of that house. And so you can call that deed a token. And as we know, you can buy and sell that deed, that token, and then that person who you sell it to owns that house. So a token is just a digital representation of some kind of asset, whether it's physical or whether it's digital. So if it's music or if it's artwork or something like that, that token represents that thing. But what does fungible mean? Well, fungible means it's interchangeable. And if you think about, for example, gold is considered fungible because an ounce of gold, no matter what shape it is always an ounce of gold. It's
gold.
And so if you have 1 ounce gold in a little cube and I've got an ounce of gold in a coin, it doesn't make a difference. We can swap those.
Gold is gold.
It's interchangeable. If we swap that, it doesn't make a difference. We both still own 1 ounce of gold. Or if you think about coins today, if you think about physical coins, currencies like dollar coins or pound coins or rand coins, if I have a £1 coin and you've got a £1 coin, it doesn't matter if yours is shinier or newer. If I give you my £1 that's older and rustier and you give me your shiny £1 coin, we still have £1.
Same value.
And so the coins are interchangeable. They are fungible. But if something is non-fungible, it means it's unique. Now, going back to that analogy of coins, if you think about diamonds are not fungible. Why? Because even if you have 2 diamonds that are the same size, you have one and I have one, we can't just swap them because there will be differences in clarity, in color, in cut.
And one of us could be having a blood diamond.
Yes, exactly. So the diamonds themselves, just because they are the same weight, it doesn't mean that they are completely interchangeable. My diamond could be worth much less than yours simply because there are flaws and its color's not great. So diamonds are non-fungible. Diamonds are unique and they have unique properties and they have a unique value. Now when it comes to tokens, non-fungible tokens, if you think about a token representing a house is a very unique thing.
Very unique.
That's the house, it's over there. So a house token would be non-fungible. Or if you think about these artworks, you think about these bored apes, or you think about these crypto kitties, every one of them are slightly unique, slightly different. And so what we can do is we can then create a blockchain token that represents that artwork. And now that artwork becomes entirely unique, and there's only one of them, or however many have been issued. So when it comes to non-fungible tokens on blockchain, all we're saying is a token that represents some kind of asset, whether it's a JPEG or whether it's a piece of music.
Even software, Mr. G.
Yes. What you can do is you can then go and create a token that now is tied to that asset. And that means now there is one asset of its kind. It's unique. And you can go and trade that token with somebody else, or you can go and sell it. So all a non-fungible token is a way to be able to make digital assets unique. And we see that most evidently now in this whole space of digital trading cards. But also, what's very cool about NFTs is that you can use it for digital rights management. So if you think about music today, if you're buying music, it's very easy at the moment, if you have a digital MP3, for example, to just make a copy of it. Now you've got that song that can just be redistributed millions of times. And so what an NFT can do for music is it can make that MP3 or that song entirely unique.
One of a kind. Unique.
And that means if you want to, you can listen to it, or you can go and sell that song to somebody else by just trading the NFT.
It's quite funny how Web3 is sort of like taking us back to basics in a way. Because remember back in the day, Mr. G, when you actually had a record, it was a record that you had.
A physical
record.
Yes, and when it comes to physical objects, of course, there's one of them. And if you want that record, I just have to give it to you and you can go and listen to it. But I can't just copy it.
You can't.
So when it comes to digital, though, it's always been so easy just to replicate and duplicate. And of course, that's why music and movie piracy is so easy today, because it's all digital. And if it's just bits and bytes, you can copy those bits and bytes. But what you can do when it comes to NFTs is you can then make every one of those pieces of art, that music or that movie, unique. And that means then if you own that token, you have rights to be able to listen to that song or watch that movie.
You're all individuals. Yes, we're all individuals. You're all different. Yes, we are all different. I'm not.
And if you want to, you can then sell that movie to somebody else by transferring the token, and now they own that movie, and you don't anymore, and you can't access it, and they can watch it. So NFTs are also a great way to manage digital rights.
Definitely.
And to be able to make music and all those things uncopyable.
Yeah.
And everybody owns a single instance of that.
It's funny how, Web3 or basically Satoshi's vision is taking us back to basics.
Yes, it's really creating a world where now it's easy to distribute digital assets and ensure their uniqueness, and also to ensure that only the people who have rights to that digital asset can access it and utilize it, which hasn't been possible in this digital age. Right now we have piracy, and it's so difficult when you've got digital content to be able to manage the rights over that. And so blockchain is now bringing that capability where we can actually have real rights. If you have produced some artwork or some kind of content, you can restrict access to that without it being pirated, because now the NFT is a way to be able to verify the ownership.
Yeah.
Who owns this artwork?
Yeah.
Well, then only you are allowed to look at it. But of course, that's not how NFTs really work today.
Yeah.
Right now, NFTs are just JPEGs that can be copied and can be viewed. And so really, the NFTs aren't being used in the correct sort of way.
I believe so, Mr. G, but I see it as an opportunity of, having to refine it and use it better. I see it as, once you purchase an NFT at some point, that's you getting access to a specific size, a printable size of an artwork probably, that only you have the rights to access or even print out, versus just what's happening right now. We're calling it like, ape craze, because that's literally what's happening. People are just posting images of apes in weird costumes and stuff, and they think that is unique.
Yes, exactly. They're not using it in the correct kind of way. Yes, they're assigning some kind of token to the artwork, but it's not really giving access, and proper ownership. That's the irony right now. So in the blockchain world, people have an inkling around NFTs. They think they've figured it out, but of course it's just not being used in the correct kind of way.
Yeah.
But eventually people are going to realize that NFTs are a great way to manage rights to content.
And people who actually figured that one out, the OGs like Wu-Tang, Mr. G.
Yes, the Wu-Tang, they created that one album.
Yeah.
And only one can exist on the NFT, and only one person can own that.
My brain is working overtime, Mr. G. I'm thinking even to an extent where printers are so much connected to the blockchain that they will even verify before printing.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't have rights to print that document, you don't own the token, then sorry, you can't print that document. Exactly.
That's dope.
Handcash is a gaming marketplace, NFT marketplace, where you can buy digital trading cards, but eventually the ability to be able to buy in-game items that you own, and you can then trade. That's another place where we see NFTs looking really useful.
Yeah.
So with the whole idea of digital trading cards, in-game items, and Handcash is doing a great job.
Yeah, shout out to Handcash.
Boom.
This term, smart contracts. I find it a little bit confusing because, when we're talking contract, we're thinking like a legal document. Formal document, and this one is different because we're saying it's a smart one.
Yeah.
Right. What is that all about? Because I'm thinking, we're probably talking digital legal contracts?
Yes. Code is law.
Yeah. We could literally take it there. But what are smart contracts?
Right. Yeah. So smart contracts, that's another buzzword that you're going to hear a lot of in blockchain.
Yeah.
And, as you said, it sounds like a legal document.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the concept, is that what you do is you can encode a set of rules. What smart contracts give us the ability to do is to automate processes. So if you have a contract that says if somebody delivers X amount of goods, then pay them out this amount of money. And so when it comes to smart contracts, that's a way of being able to create something that is autonomous. In other words, it acts on its own and can function on its own and execute rules on its own based on the kind of input that it gets. And so when it comes to a lot of these decentralized applications, when we talk about these decentralized marketplaces, or even these decentralized autonomous organizations or DAOs, those are all driven by this idea of a smart contract. Now, a smart contract isn't a contract. It's not a legal document.
Please, Mr. G, you need to clarify that.
Yeah, it's not something that has been written by a lawyer and has terms of an agreement that you can follow and it becomes the law, the rules.
I thought it was that. Hey.
Well, that's what people are saying. They're selling it as that. They're saying that here we are able to now code a set of rules into a contract, and whatever the contract says, that's the law. And it doesn't matter about the people involved. This notion of code is law. That's kind of how people are looking at smart contracts. But smart contracts really are just way simpler than that. It's just a way to be able to automate a process, to be able to give inputs and then produce outputs. If you think of the analogy in IT systems, you have something called a data transfer interface, the ability to be able to move information, to be able to transform it or produce some calculation, check some conditional logic, and then produce some kind of output. And that's all really a smart contract is. It's just this little program that you can automatically run on a blockchain.
So, Mr. G, are you telling me that a smart contract is sort of like an autonomous, software?
Yes, it's just a little bit of software, a little bit of code that runs on a blockchain in an autonomous way. And if you give it some inputs, if you deposit crypto into it, if you do something like that, then it can process some logic and then it can produce some output. So if the smart contract is supposed to pay people automatically, then it will do so. And we see smart contracts playing a big role in these kinds of decentralized applications. So when we look at these dApps, as they call them, we see how people are trying to create decentralized exchanges where there is no company that is managing the order book and how trades are processed. Rather, what you have is you've got a decentralized exchange governed by smart contracts, and then people are able to trade or even do things like create loans, a lot of financial services, decentralized finance or DeFi. It's all these different little bits of logic, all these little bits of code and logic that can execute some kind of function. And so what people are looking at is ways to be able to decentralize the financial institution, where you don't have a board of directors, you don't have a company with staff, management.
That is not real. That is, come on, like what? If people get ripped off, nobody is to be held accountable, basically. Like, let's blame the machine.
It is not me. It is you.
Yes, well, the idea there is that if you have a smart contract, right, that contract is exposed to people, it's public, and so you can audit that code if you've got the mind to do that, and then you can have confidence.
Pause it right there, Mr. G. Like, you just said if you have the mind to do it. So clearly it's for a specific crowd.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is not the average person in the street. But of course, the idea there is that a smart contract, because it's public, you can see how that code has been written. You can see exactly what's going on in there. If you want to, it's open source. You can have confidence that if you interact with that smart contract, that it'll perform the function as written. But of course, when it comes to code, everybody knows there's always bugs. There's always exploits.
Always. There's gonna be.
And one of the things that we've been seeing over the years with these smart contracts is how hackers inevitably find some kind of flaw, and then huge amounts of money get stolen. But in crypto, of course, this concept of code is law is they'll say, well, look, it was written in the contract, and if a hacker found that exploit, well, code is law. They've got a right? I mean, it wasn't a hack.
It should apply that way.
They followed the contract. People have this idea that it's the law.
Okay. Legal. Illegal. Fasten your seat. Legal. Sir?
And if you can find an exploit in that contract, that you haven't broken the law because the contract allowed you to do that. So this is what is now forming the basis of this whole DeFi, decentralized finance idea,
Yeah.
where people think that they can finally now take away the messy structure of a company with the inconvenience of having to be an accountable institution and to have key individuals and comply with all the rules around knowing your customer and doing anti-money laundering checks. If we could just remove all that and we could just code up all the functions of that business, whether it's loans or whether it's trading and swapping cryptos, then we can remove the messy human element out of it, and we can just have this clean, clinical, code is law world. This is what a lot of people in crypto are very excited about, because one of the things, of course, they always want to do is disintermediate regulators and disintermediate law enforcement.
Which we all know it's out of touch with reality, Mr. G, because we work in a world where people need to be accountable. We work in a world where people need to be, trusting entities that they are dealing with.
Absolutely. It's a complete misunderstanding of blockchain, that blockchain is there to remove human beings out of the equation. Yes, of course, what blockchain can do is make some of those intermediaries irrelevant, because blockchain, this universal unified ledger, creates the opportunity for people to be able to bypass the middleman.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that now we have to bypass the existing rules and regulations around financial services or even ownership of assets. If you have a house, it's not just me being able to transfer a token to you and now you legally own that property. There's a whole legal world that we have to consider. If we can use blockchain to reduce the fees and some of those intermediaries, sure.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you're still going to have to engage with accountable institutions, accountable people.
Yeah.
If you have a problem, if there's an issue, you can go to that company and you can speak to people. And if there is fraud or anything like that, well, then there are heads that can roll.
It's kind of like creepy that people want to eliminate the human element. I don't know like what type of people are those, because it's like, where do we all go now? We need to be functional in a world where people are responsible for their mistakes.
That's right.
So
exactly.
this
Trust
is
the machine.
That's scary, Mr. G.
It's like Hal from Space Odyssey. Have you seen that movie?
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
I swear, it's literally that.
It's when the machine says no, but there's also, the computer says no in Little Britain.
Computer says no.
Is there nothing we can do?
We don't want a world that is just run by these automated services, because as we know, those processes can go wrong. Things can break down.
And you know what's funny, Mr. G? We call them human error.
Yeah.
We can never say it's a machine error.
That's right. If a human coded those contracts,
Yes.
human coded that up, and so there is a human behind it, and a human that's liable for the issues there.
Yes.
But not in crypto. Crypto think, well, if you code a smart contract, your hands are
That's
clean,
funny.
you can walk away, and if someone gets screwed over, too bad, too sad.
Sometimes being a crypto is kind of cool because logic doesn't apply that side, man. It's just breeze, just hitting between the ears, yo.
Yeah, exactly. Now, we've spoken about contracts, smart contracts,
Yeah.
which are just little bits of code that run on a blockchain in an autonomous way. In other words, they just self-execute. If you want to be able to interact with these smart contracts, you need apps.
Yeah.
When it comes to a company like Centbee provides a wallet, and we manage and maintain that. It's not open source. You own your keys, but Centbee controls the code base, and we build features and all that. We've got a blockchain component, of course, because that's where the payments occur. But we also have a big back end where we store customer accounts and we have all that kind of information. But a dApp is supposed to be a decentralized version of a Centbee wallet, where you can have a wallet, but there is no company behind it that is maintaining that software, or at least maintaining a database of information and putting restrictions in place for users.
Here's the issue again.
Yeah.
Like these guys, I don't know how they think, Ms. G. So you're going to sit there, write code, build this product, and then it's running on its own. I'm not responsible for it.
Yes.
That's basically how they're thinking.
Well, the idea there is that there isn't a company now that is handling or managing your information and providing those features to you.
Yeah.
A decentralized app is supposed to be just a little bit of software that is generally open source. I mean, most dApps are open source because you want to have confidence that there isn't something going on in the background, coins being stolen or anything like that. And then the back end essentially is the smart contract on the blockchain. So you don't need a company with a database and a back end. You just have a bit of software that you can release as open source, whether it's a wallet or an exchange product or a DeFi product app, and then you can release that into the wild, and anybody can download it and immediately start using the services of that dApp, trading cryptos or swapping cryptos or doing loans or something like that.
I like how you put it, into the wild.
Into the wild. There are no rules behind it because, with a company, if you have customers, you've got to know your customer. You have to put limits in place according to whatever the rules and regulations say. But in a decentralized app, there is no accountable business behind it that needs to follow the rules. You can just create some software, put it out into the wild, and users can immediately start using it without having to do any kinds of registration or KYC checks or anything like that. There's no anti-money laundering checks behind the scenes.
That's funny. Imagine, like, you getting ripped off, like, on a platform like that. You'd hate yourself so much.
Yeah, exactly. If there's a problem that happens, there's no one to go to. There's no one to turn to.
Like, you knew, like, the implications of coming to a platform like that. Imagine, like, you just went into a dark room.
Yeah. The most important thing there is that now you can circumvent rules around transactions and payments. And that's the kind of crypto mentality.
Yeah.
They always want to try and skirt around the rules that they think are putting up barriers to their good times. And so the idea of a dApp, I mean, look at, it was a Tornado Cash and Wasabi Wallet.
They collapsed because of how the real world works. There's regulators in this space, I mean, consumers need to be protected.
Yes, and also the creators of those apps ultimately are the ones that get nailed.
Yeah.
Tornado Cash, everybody said, well, look, it's just software. I mean, the guy just distributed software. It was open source. And so he just distributed the software and he said, well, there it is if people want to use it. But at the end of the day, they came for him. They said, you are the creator of this software. You are distributing the software. So now we're going to come after you and nail you. So this concept of a dApp, it seems all amazing where you can just create software, release it into the wild. You can connect to smart contracts on the blockchain. And suddenly now you've got these full-featured financial service applications, trading applications, and there's no accountability. But that's a dream. That'll never happen. And so users who are using these apps think that they're safe. The people who are producing these apps think that they're safe. But what we are seeing more and more now are how regulators are coming down on these people who are trying to produce software and applications that skirt around the rules that exist in financial services and other industries.
Yeah.
It sounds cool, but what is the viability? Probably none.
The only dApp that we recognize is the dApp. So yeah, Ms. G, I mean, we spoke of, challenges regarding regulation, security, bugs. There's gonna be bugs, Mr. G, But what's the other challenges maybe that we don't see or we haven't spoken about?
Yes, well, the biggest challenge, of course, if you want to have a Web3 world is you're going to have a scalable blockchain. There's so much about Web3 that is so significant and so impactful. And of course, when it comes to payments and transactions, that's something that we're so passionate about. The ability to have low-cost payments. But also, if you're going to be using smart contracts in the right sort of way, or NFTs in the right sort of way, you're going to need a scalable blockchain. And right now, of course, there are lots of different blockchains out there. Solana and Ethereum and Cardano, they're all trying to become that blockchain that can provide that full functionality around Web3. But one thing they are lacking is scalability. In other words, the ability to have many transactions being processed on that blockchain at very, very, very low cost. For Web3 to work, that's what we need. We need a very fast blockchain. If you want the whole world to be using blockchain, you're going to need gazillions of transactions.
And I like the fact that you emphasized on that, Mr. G, because when we're talking transactions, people are thinking, they're only thinking money transactions. And we're talking data.
Exactly. We need scalable blockchain. And yes, all these other blockchains out there look all exciting. I mean, they have big communities and they've got great celebs who are punting them and everything looks all great. But one of the things that they can't do, which is the most important thing, is create a scalable blockchain. And everybody is forgetting Satoshi Nakamoto in this case. Satoshi says it doesn't reach a scaling ceiling.
In his words.
Those are his words. Satoshi Nakamoto created a blockchain that can facilitate the entire world to be able to use in this Web3 way with all these great features that we've been talking about. So the only blockchain that exists today that can prove that it has that ability to scale is the Bitcoin Satoshi Vision blockchain, BSV. We constantly talk about Terranode. It's our favorite subject here on the Centbee Show. And what we are seeing being demonstrated is a massively scalable blockchain that can facilitate the entire world's Web3 transactions with all this cool stuff.
Everything.
Every single thing. The only blockchain that can provably scale is the BSV blockchain. Satoshi Nakamoto got it right. People have forgotten Satoshi Nakamoto. Of course, they're now in this crypto world, which is completely opposite to what Satoshi wanted. Satoshi was anti-crypto. He didn't want a decentralized world that was unaccountable, that people could just do whatever they want. He wanted to create a world where people were accountable. And that's why he built Bitcoin the way he did, with proof of work mining, with traceable transactions, transparent blockchain. Remember, the whole idea of Bitcoin is that it's not encrypted. It's transparent, so anything can be viewed. Auditors, anti-money launderers, they can all have the blockchain to be able to provide accountability and transparency. And so that is what the BSV blockchain provides. And so even though we see all these other blockchains experimenting and doing all these great things, they are always going to be hitting their head against the scalability issue. And that's also because they are bound by that trilemma, scalability,
security, and
decentralization. Thank you very much. Yes, they think that they can only have two of the three, but of course Satoshi showed us that we can have all three. That's why we are so excited about the BSV blockchain. Every single day we see ourselves getting closer to what Satoshi envisioned. We see great people out there in the industry, people at the BSV Association, other companies out there that are now clicking on to this idea that Satoshi had something, and they are pursuing that in Satoshi's vision, Bitcoin Satoshi's vision.
And Mr. G, just one thing, what people don't realize is that Africa will be the continent that actually takes BSV to its ultimate purpose.
Absolutely. One thing that we see for sure is that Africa is going to be the place where that happens. Africa is famous for leapfrogging. And one of the most important things in Africa is payments and remittances. Remittances mean sending money, especially cross-border. And mobile money is massive across the continent and is just growing and growing every day. In some countries like Kenya, 98% of transactions are going through mobile money. And so when we look at the continent of Africa and we see BSV, we see such an incredible opportunity to be able to reduce the costs of transactions for over 1 billion people on this continent.
Literally.
People who are paying insane fees just to move money cross-border. And it's not big amounts of money. Africa is the poorest continent. And people are sending money home and paying massive fees.
We are rich as hell. In spirit and, ethic and all of that, But I guess not in paper.
Yes, and that's why we have so much hope for Centbee, because Centbee is a mobile money product that is like WeChat. We think of it as an Africa WeChat, and we've seen in other countries that Centbee is 1,000 times cheaper than existing mobile money products.
Fact.
And so that's our goal. It's to bring BSV to the African continent. We've been doing this for many, many years.
And we're still going on.
We're still going. We really believe that Centbee Wallet has the opportunity to now really transform Africa and completely disrupt the mobile money space on this continent.
We're on the forefront, Mr. G.
Pushing Satoshi's vision, building a product that actually works and is relevant to the continent. It's hard for Europeans and people in America to understand how important mobile money is and how powerful BSV is as a transformative force. We know. We've got it. We're going to make sure that we deliver this vision to the continent and transform the lives of as many people as we can.
Facts, yo. Guys, remember to subscribe, show some love, tell your granny, your neighbors, your dog, everyone. This is the real BSV plug, yo. Mobile money on fire. Yeah, Ms. G, stepping into this week's socials. Our first one comes from BSV Real Bitcoin. Nice one. And they saying, love the show and wallet. Looking forward to the next episode.
Great. Yes. Well, here it is. And we're looking forward to the next one too. Thanks for watching. Thanks for the comment.
Sure. Yeah, our second one comes from Andrew De Polo. And they saying, who has the Bank of International Settlements phone number? We need to call them and leave a message.
Yeah, so last week the show was all about the Finternet, which is the Bank of International Settlements vision for a global unified financial network. And we go over what the Finternet is, and also how the BIS are missing the big elephant in the room, which is BSV. It's already there. BIS, Bank of International Settlements. So if you want to know more about that, the Finternet, then go and watch last week's show.
Sure.
Episode 71.
71, yo. Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Andrew. Yeah. Our third one comes from Jacques Fanta. And they saying, hi guys, I'm unable to send my BSV to another wallet. I receive an error message.
Yeah, so if you're having a bit of a problem with your Centbee wallet, please reach out to us at support@centbee.com. If you're having a persistent problem, please reach out to us. We've got a support person who's going to be able to help you through that.
Cool. Short, Jacques. Our final one comes from Zalara Nova. And they saying, scaling done right, SPV, IPv6, and overlay services sound great, but real-world adoption is the true test. Curious to see where this goes.
Yes, exactly. You know, I mean, SPV, simple payment verification, that's how we can create wallets like Centbee that don't have to listen to zillions of transactions that are going to be flying through the BSV network. A very important part of scaling Bitcoin. Also, the ability to be able to make peer-to-peer transactions. And so SPV is critical for us to move into the next phase of Bitcoin. And very importantly, to truly be able to use SPV, we need IPv6, which is just an IP address format, which makes it possible for every single device and every single person on the planet to have a unique IP address so that we can connect to each other directly and be able to transact in a decentralized way. So we definitely need both. And if you want to know more about SPV and IPv6, we had a great episode with Siggy Oscarson, the director of Terranode. They have been building out Terranode, and check out that episode. I think it's episode 70.
Correct.
If you want to know more about IPv6.
I think we've actually come to the end of our show.
Great stuff, Kage. It's great to be able to talk about a concept like Web3, which is very buzzy, but is very misunderstood. And it's also great to be able to let you know that the only Web3 blockchain, at least one that's capable of serving the entire world, is Satoshi Nakamoto's Bitcoin. Bitcoin Satoshi's Vision. So if you're interested in Web3, and you are looking at how you can leverage it in your business or to create a new business that uses it, well, there's only one blockchain that can support it. So check out the BSV blockchain. Check out bsvblockchain.org. It's a great website with a lot of content and a lot of information that's going to help you on your journey to realize your Web3 vision. And we highly recommend it. Great people behind it at the organization.
And dedicated people, Mr. G.
Dedicated, real smart people out there, great people, very open, lots of content online. Check out BSV Blockchain. You're not going to go wrong.
Accountable people.
Yes.
This is not like some autonomous, organization running on its own. You know? Yeah,
exactly. Cool. We want to thank you for joining us here today on the Centbee Show. Please come back soon.